Hi, I'm Glenn Dill, and I'm a course creator. I'm excited to be able to share with you my experiences so that you also can be successful in whatever your personal and professional goals are. In this video, I want to share with you 6 essential core competencies that you will need to be successful as a course creator. The specific knowledge and skills you'll need to develop those core competencies and a roadmap on how you can quickly become competent in as little as 30 days. Now, one of the most valuable principles that I learned in my executive MBA program that I want to share with you is that successful companies must know what core competencies they need to be successful in the market that they've chosen to compete. I believe that those same principles apply to individuals, to entrepreneurs, and to course creators. There are 3 types of core competencies. First, there are competencies that you possess based on your personality traits and things about you that make you a unique individual. That would be like, how would you approach a challenging situation? How would you handle conflict? And things of that nature. The second kind of competencies are core competencies. Now, these are the knowledge, skills, and abilities that it takes to succeed in a specific area, and they're often common for success in anything that you're attempting to succeed at in life, including being a successful course creator. Finally, there are competencies specific to the job that you're doing or the profession that you've chosen. In the next few minutes, we're going to focus primarily on the core competencies required to succeed as a course creator. Now, these competencies would be the unique value and information that you can offer to others to teach them, and that they are willing to pay a price to buy your online course. So how did I identify these competencies? I've studied the best practices of the most successful course creators, and I've combined that with the best practices of learning and development professionals, teachers, professors, and my personal experience in designing and implementing training programs in the operation groups in businesses that I've worked for during my career. Now, I've developed a practical model that makes it easy to understand these best practices. I think the human body provides the best analogy or model to explain these core competencies. I've organized these competencies so that you will be able to understand them pretty quickly. You will need the vision competencies, the things that you must be able to identify and plan. The thinking competencies, the things you must know in order to be successful. The communication competencies, that will allow you to effectively communicate what you know to your audience. Relationship competencies, how you will relate and interact with your audience. And the applying skill competencies, how you will gain these skills and apply them, and then the action-taking competencies, how you will actually implement these competencies effectively. So let's dig in a little deeper on these competencies. First, the vision competencies. That includes the awareness of customer needs. Now, that gets into market research on which niche you best can serve and what their needs are, and also the ability to plan. That includes lesson plans and plans on which courses you will offer when. Thinking competencies. Those include how you define the problem to be solved. Now, you might ask, why do I need to know that? Because remember, your goal is to meet your customer's needs. When you identify the need, then you need to put it in the form of a problem that you now are going to solve. And there's some best practices around that I will share with you. Then there are instructional and experiential design competencies. Now, those 2 areas are really full of value and practical best practices that we can all use. Those are the best practices currently utilized by the best learning and design professionals. They're people that go to college to learn just how to design a course. So the instructional part of it is how you actually present the material. The experiential design part of it is designing experiences that will help your audience learn. Because as you'll see later, especially adults learn best through experience. So you have to create those experiences specifically to allow them to learn. It's fascinating stuff. I think you'll enjoy that. And then there's sales and marketing best practices. Well, you might say, well, I'm going to put my class out on one of the marketplaces like Udemy, something like that. In some cases, that will work and you don't have to do the sales and marketing. But on some of the platforms, you have to do your own marketing. So it just depends. But those are good competencies to have. You don't have to become a sales expert or a marketing expert. Just know the best practices that can be applied to course creation. Of course, we know you've got to be able to do video production and editing and do it in an effective and productive way. We don't want to spend 2 hours for every minute of finished production and editing. And finally, we want to apply design thinking. Now, that is actually a best practice in product development and design. The reason why I'm including this is that profession has developed some really good best practices on how to quickly develop products and do so at a minimum risk and as quickly as possible and be effective in it. Those same principles can be applied to course creation because courses are a product. They're just a digital product or a video product. Then there are the communication competencies. So the communication competencies include having an engaging style that is positive and enthusiastic, where you promote active participation. And you might say, well, Glenn, how am I supposed to have an active participation type of a situation when my course is recorded and someone's buying it off my website? It's a good question. And of course, the answer is you ask for feedback during the recorded session, and then you monitor your comments. You give them a way to ask questions. You can also do that with coaching sessions and live podcast type sessions. You need to also be an active listener. When you get that feedback, regardless of how you get it, you need to really seriously look at it and see how in the world your course is being received by your audience, and are you really meeting those needs? And then I think one of the most important ones is it's good to know the best practices for storytelling, because the more effective you are at telling a story and capturing your audience's attention, and yes, in some cases you want to be entertaining with this, the better you are at doing that storytelling, the more your students, your audience will enjoy the course, and the more they'll get out of it, and that's what you want. Then there are the relationship competencies. So you want to create a trusting environment that's supportive and collaborative, where sharing of ideas is possible, where there's no criticism going on, and you want to be in the role of coaching and mentoring, because your goal, again, as a course creator, is you want that need of your audience, your students, to be met. So you got to be willing to create an atmosphere within your recorded course and on your website that really nurtures the students so that they can learn, because that's what they're paying you to do. That's the value they're looking for from you as a course creator. Then there are all the skill competencies. You need to know your topic that you're teaching on. But the question is, do you need to be an expert on that? And the answer is no, not necessarily. It depends on who your target audience is. A great concept that I think is very valuable is you're an expert to the audience that you're at least one step ahead of in the process, or in the knowledge, the gaining of knowledge in your specific niche or topic. So just make sure that you know everything there is to know about that level of knowledge, and your audience and students will love you for it, because you're giving them the information that they need for where they're at. And that's where you need to meet them, is right where they're at. Over time, you will increase your knowledge, and I think the best way to do that is to commit to being a lifetime learner in your niche. If you do that, then the percentage of your audience, your target niche audience, that you can meet their needs will increase, because now you're not just an expert for someone who's a beginner, but you can actually be an expert for an intermediate person, and eventually you'll become an expert for the experts. But you need to start with what you know. That's good enough. Just make sure that you're targeting the right audience and positioning your course to that audience. And you just need to be committed to improve over time. You get that feedback, so you want to seek the feedback, listen to it, and act on it. And then there are the action competencies. So a lot of us get hung up and I have on coming up with course ideas. Or I may have an idea, just a flood of ideas for courses, but then I need to take that and whittle it down into something manageable and logical of a course plan that I can actually deliver and make sense out of. The best practice that I found is brainstorming course ideas and brainstorming within a course idea the different things that you would need to know in order to meet that level of knowledge. And you can do it with sticky notes, is a great way to do it. You brainstorm those ideas, you group them by common topics. Then, once you have that, you develop a course launch plan. So you never want to launch a course without a plan of how you're going to do this. And you want to set some smart KPI metrics. We don't get into a lot of details on that right now, but we'll talk about that later in other courses. But you want to be able to look at YouTube metrics, analytics, and you want to know how is that course actually performing. And you want to act on that information. And that should be in the form of an improvement plan that you would develop that is written down so that there's some specific things that you're going to do over time. You don't have to start all over again, but just over time you're going to incrementally get better. That's a high-level look at things. Now, core competency training has courses in a lot of these areas, and we will, over time, we'll have courses in all of these areas. But what I'm going to be doing, and you'll see this in subsequent courses, is I'm going to start giving tutorials in each one of these topics for free so that you can get this knowledge and gain this knowledge that I've spent a lot of time researching and save you time and increase the chances of your success. Now, core competency training has a learning model. And if you start with the knowledge area, as we go through these classes, we will give you knowledge in the form of concepts. So what I want to do is I want to be able to empower you to identify a concept in the situations that you come across when you're designing your courses and delivering your courses, so that you can then refer back to those concepts. And then the abilities, we'll teach you the approach that you should take. What are the attitudes? What are the ways that you should approach this? And then we give you skills practice by giving applications and examples. And then we let you get the experience you need through skills application by doing an actual problem. That's kind of our approach to all of this. Now, another concept that I think is helpful is what I call the Course Creator Competency Excellence Pyramid. And what that means is that if you see, we don't have to become a niche influencer in order to be successful. But we can go up the Competency Excellence Pyramid, starting with just being competent as a course creator. That's huge. You can make a lot of money if you're competent as a course creator. But then you can move beyond that to become an expert in your niche as a course creator. And then ultimately, if you choose to, you can become a niche influencer. You can become an expert in your niche. All of that's very possible. People have done it. So let's dig a little deeper. So to become a competent course creator, you need to conduct market research, as we discussed before. You need to know who your target audience is, and most importantly, what are their needs? Because your goal is to meet those needs, and those needs may not line up with the course that you would like to design and provide. But if you don't design a course to meet those needs, regardless of what your priorities are, then you will miss that target audience. In fact, you may miss them forever. They may never come back. Secondly, is to be able to identify customer needs that you can actually meet. Don't try to take on meeting a need if you're not prepared for it. Go to another need that you are capable of meeting. You also need to design how you can meet that need. So this is a very logical type stepwise process of developing your product, your course. You identify through market research what the audience is and what their need is, and a need that you can meet, and then you design a solution, you solve a problem on how you can meet that need. And you need to do that before you start recording. That's all part of the planning process. Then, once you've completed that, then you design the course using best practices. Now, as you move up the competency pyramid, you want to make sure that you're acting on that feedback. You're developing course business plan to define how you're specifically going to get to that level of being an expert in your niche. You want to definitely be applying instructional design and experiential design principles at that point. You want to really focus on building key relationships in the community and build your own community. And then to become a niche influencer, it's good always to publish an ebook or some other type of product. It could be a white paper, it could be an informatic of some type, but publish the same way that other really famous people do. And I think, as many of you know, you can publish an ebook pretty easily, especially if you're just taking material that you've already developed in your courses and you're just putting it into a book form. It's very doable. You can also begin a podcast, which are coming more into fashion, and you can invite guest influencers. The other thing that you want to do, of course, is to be a guest influencer. Now, all of this adds up to focusing first on the lowest level, which is just becoming a competent course creator. So I've got a 30-day action plan that I want to challenge you to be part of, which includes conducting market research on your niche, identifying one specific customer need, defining the problem that you'll solve, designing a solution that you can deliver, brainstorm the lesson plan, develop the course materials, practice the presentation, record it, edit it, and publish it as a pilot, and then finally as a full published release. Now you might say, well, that sounds like too much for 30 days. It's a lot, but it can be done. And I'll be there right there with you. And the more that you do that, you'll get better at doing this research, and this whole process will become second nature to you. So what are the next steps for the 30-day challenge? First, just commit to a 30-day period. I'm not saying, hey, now you got to start tomorrow and within 30 days. If that schedule doesn't work for you, then that's fine. But commit to a focused 30-day period. Secondly, I want you to access the free competency courses that I'll provide to you, no charge, no obligation. Just want you to have this information. I put the work into it, and I want to share it with you. Just complete each one of those courses, and they're short courses, and then participate in a wrap-up podcast event that we'll have. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your time you've spent, and I hope you've gotten value out of the information that I've given you. This is still a high-level overview of what those core competencies are and the kind of things that we will be studying. What I'd like you to do is go to my website, www.corecompetencytrainingllc.com, which I've got a link here that you can follow. And when you go in there, you'll see from that link, it's an invitation to join the community. Now, there's no obligation and there's no cost, but if you'll subscribe to the website, I will give you the course materials as they're available. And we're going to start off with one right away on how to conduct market research. I also want to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'd like you to send some comments on where your YouTube channel is and what your niche area is and what you've been doing. I want to hear about those things. If you do that, I'll subscribe to your YouTube channel as well. That will help us all out. So again, if you have questions, please do so in the comment section. And then I wish you all success, and I look forward to working with you and sharing the best information. By the way, that sharing is a two-way street, right? I'm sharing what I've done and what I know, but I also want to hear from you. So I'm trying to build a community where that can happen in an environment where there's no blame, there's no judgment. It's a safe, trustful environment where we can all learn together and share our successes, what works, what doesn't work, and what circumstances, because the body of knowledge that we are going after as content course creator is growing. It's changing all the time. So I look forward to working with you. Thank you very much for your time.